Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Friday, July the 12th, 2019. And yay, I get to spend a Friday night with my gal pal posse, Lisa Eager and Lisa Flamino Rush. And I tell you, it has been a time getting to this. My clock is still flashing over here where I would normally look for the time. But I tell you, the
Yeah, you're frozen. Working overtime.
like I did before, because maybe I'm just frozen to you
Okay.
and not everybody else.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody gets this at approximately 4 o'clock Eastern time today.
Yeah.
My power went out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is kind of odd because it's gone out a couple of times for no reason in this neighborhood anyway, but I've seen work going on, transformers being replaced, whatever, right? So today at 4 o'clock, the power goes out, and I called to report it.
15 minutes before we were supposed to start. Right?
Well,
no,
the first time it was an hour into it. It was about 4:30, quarter of 5 when I called, and they said that it was affecting one residence. I tried to fool myself because it skipped when it said it. I tried to fool myself, and I told Lisa, I said, it could have said 100, but it did skip, so I don't know what it said. And when I started telling Lisa about this as we were leaving the house to go get something to eat because, no power, I called it again and did it on speakerphone to see what it said now, almost 2 hours later, because now it's like 6 o'clock. Not quite 6, but right around. And I got 6, that this outage affected 6 people. And we were very fortunate at the time. It came back on almost right to the minute when they said it would. They said by 8 o'clock. We had said that we were going to meet at like 7:15-ish. But then the minute we started to go to record, your internet went down too.
Yep.
And I know you've been having trouble with yours off and on a little bit, but still.
Yeah, every time I go to record something.
A lot lately, right?
Or post on the IUV. Funny how that works. I got a few minutes from work. I'm zooming in. I'm ready. No. Okay.
No. So, but I'm so glad that we decided not to let any of that stop us. And shout out to Ralph, because Ralph helped us out. I haven't seen that movie, Ralph Breaks the Internet, but so I don't know what happens there, but I'm so glad the internet's back. And so tonight we're going to talk about, this is sort of our carry-on conversation from the other night, where we were talking about the depth and the breadth of what is, being revealed specifically through that Epstein stuff. And wow, all the new stuff that has come out that goes with that. But the storm is here, within and without.
Right.
I know this to be true in all parts of me, because I am starting to see some things around that we wouldn't have gotten to the point that we are right now if we all to some degree haven't been doing some of this internal work, because
we absolutely wouldn't be as far as we are down this path. I mean, that's the other thing. Right at the beginning is probably a good time to point that out, is that a common refrain is, well, nothing's happening, or depending on where one is focusing. If one, kind of follows Q, thinking, oh no, Q hasn't posted for a while, or Trump is not moving fast enough, or he isn't doing this, or that person he's got in his cabin is a bad guy. Can he see that? What's the matter with him? Or they're still, doing chemtrails, or this or that or the other thing. And so, two things I wanted to point out. First of all, when you get in the groove of focusing on the nots, this is not, that's not, then since we're in a moment where everything is exacerbated, everything is intensified, everything is amplified, you're just making the knots go off the charts. So unless you're phrasing the knots in a way that you like that, you may want to shift how you're doing that. So you're pulling more of them to you, and so it's almost like you've fallen in this hole, though you don't notice that you've fallen in the hole, and it's this knots happening hole, and all you can see is like the wall of knots happening. So the wall of the bad things or whatever, and not coming forth. The other thing I wanted to really point out is that since we are all unwinding and unbinding that, and we do it from an inside job. So as each one of us does that, as you were talking about a minute ago, Sheila, within ourselves, that's a huge step forward for every being around you, every being within your city, your town, your state, your planet, your neck of the galaxy, so on and so on and so forth, because we're transmitters. And so we transmit it into the all, into the Akash, because there is no past, present, and future. It's now.
Right.
And this is probably a little bit outside of this conversation, but you're also expanding. I don't know if you've ever heard a news report and they talk about the universe. Well, the universe is expanding. Yeah, that was Tom. He just made the universe expand because he did some work on himself. Or Lisa, hey, that was 4:00. Lisa's expanding. It's, right? And I'm not kidding, actually. It sounds kind of funny, but it's the way that it works. So traveling down this path and all this unwinding and unbinding, we're much further along, and this is really linear placeholders way to say it, although on a lot of levels and dimensional frequency bandwidth, it's accurate, although not wholly accurate. We're much further along. We're much further unwound and bound. We're much further at plateaus and crescendos of consciousness busting open. That's just a few ways to say it. Then thought, even the most forward-thinking or really, wow, we can do this, or they can do this, or however you want to hold it. Because again, I'm talking from different perspectives and perceptions. Then thought that we would get ever, or in this moment ever. Kind of, again, this language really fails because I'm talking to people who are processing mostly with the linear brain in the linear polarized polarity duality way, and that's not the truth of who each of us are. But so to hold it in that construct, we never thought we'd get to this expansionness to bring this home. We knew we'd bring this home. We knew we'd wrap it up. We knew we'd unbind it and unwind it. We knew we'd chip everything down or all would crumble. We knew new things. That was in the bag. But the level, and we're not there yet as far as the further than we thought, if that makes sense.
Well, I want to speak to that for myself, because I've kind of, through all my puzzle piece collecting, because when I collect puzzle pieces, they are, for me, my perspective of source, which is what I really do view myself as. I feel every bit of what you're saying there. But when I contemplate others, right? Because I know when you said it's when we think about the it's not, right? As opposed to anything else, really. I mean, just that it's not. And I've done that a lot. It's not. I I even said to you over the last couple of weeks, I thought I'd be somewhere else, man. I thought this is you know, what's up with this? But well, now that's all gone. That just came in. It came in so strong that I wanted to share that. Oh, I remind myself because I have done a lot of thinking about this, and I feel like it's almost like when looking at someone who hasn't had a lot of experience. Okay, so I'm 58, and even just in this 3D linear experience, when I look back at an 18-year-old, they don't have the benefit of all of that experience under their belt. And in the terms of it's not, for myself, what I came to is, no, you're right, it's not. It's not where I might have thought it could be, but where it is, opposed to where it was. And I had a glimpse of that. There was a portion of me that knew that when we had the conversation, Danny, Lunacy, and I had that conversation in Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
I had a sense of it then, but I didn't quite grok it to the point that I do now. Okay? And that is that there was a decision somewhere along the way made that all the beings on this planet want, the ones that are staying here want to do this. Otherwise, like you've said before, they wouldn't still be here.
Right.
And a decision was made that everybody gets to go. And so in truth, that's what we're doing here. How do you, that this is, and I know that nothing is missing, but every single one, Lisa and I were kind of talking about this today in terms of, because there's free will involved here, folks. And so in every single moment, we get to choose how we want to experience this. And I was telling Lisa, if you don't think that the other parts of ourselves that do exist in other realms outside of linear time aren't going, hey, she decided this over here. You good? We need to do this. Hey, somebody get that prop. We got to do this this is what's taking place. I just know this with all of me at this moment of now. Because if everything is simultaneously happening at once, if now is the only thing that matters, then that has to be working that way.
Yes. And that would be the very most simplistic description you could give, because it's even in this planet, in this dimension, in this sphere, you're doing that to you doing that.
No, I know.
A whole other conversation.
No, and I realize that's what I'm trying to say. I realize now that this is so. These are the puzzle pieces that I have collected over. And really, I mean, it's like something just clicked really recently here, as far as that's concerned, to where I can change it from I think to I know.
Right. And to go back for a minute, where to blend what I said a minute ago into what you were just saying, so people can kind of stretch the taffy of their brains a little bit more. So each one is a transmitter, and each one is an inside job. So the storm is within and without, and it was within first, and then withoutness, and then it kind of rules in a sphere. So it's within, without, all at the same time. Okay. Then you get collectives that are transmitting, and so you could look maybe at a collective. This is a collective. You could look at a collective of Trump and his whole cabinet that actually knows what's going on. You could look at Q and all that watch that as a collective. You could Q as a collective and those beings, and then who were actively participating in that, and then you could, so there's lots of that. But what really happened that gets it even more exciting is then you get a collective that is the whole collective consciousness, and I'll just take the smaller level of that for a minute, of the planet, right? And because of the beyond quantum jumps that we've been making with the solstice, which was a huge node point, so it's on the one level it's a turning of time and day length, and okay, that's from the very linear scientific, but it's many other things beyond that. It's also a node point as we're coming up to another one with we had the solar eclipse, and then we got the lunar eclipse. So you've got three again in a row, which is a triad of them, which is forming this great. Think of on a sound stage or on a big huge rock concert. You've got the amplifiers, and the amplifiers are set on the stage not only so they're not clashing with each other and they're not backfeeding with each other, but they're actually then amplifying the different sounds as they go out, and it's matched to the acoustics of whatever auditorium that they're in. So you could use that as an analogy, as a metaphor for what we've all done. And and this isn't just on the actual day; it's usually before and after. All these things are because they're spherical, and everybody's at a different point. But as a collective, and the consciousness collective, we made beyond quantum leaps to have that's transmitting, and now transmitting as a collective. So on the one hand, a simple way it is, it's amplified beyond the nth degree, but it also changes. It's I don't have the right way to do the math, but if Lisa's doing something and she's integrating and she's having more expansion, and so that inner work is changing a lot of stuff within her and then her regions, but she's also feeding it into the Akash. She's feeding it into all that is, and that is then accessible to all others who can do that. So you talk about templates and that kind of stuff. Okay, then you take a whole collective of the planet and the human beings on it, and they have reached a stage, so all of those has expanded it. And it's not just for the collective, it's not just for Lisa, right? Either the big group or the single person, but it's for the all as well. So now you're starting to get a sense of, in a rudimentary way, the way I'm describing it, how it's hopping on more and more and more and more and more. And just that alone is a good thing to ponder for a moment or two about it's not happening, all these kinds of things, because the amount of changes, not only within each being's bodies, all of them, in what is so of the unwinding and unbinding, what is so in the unraveling, what is so of the new creations, what is so of the new earth and beyond in all, what is so in the changes. So as one big civilization moves up into another dimensional jump, then all are doing that. So you got to keep going. The ceiling, bad word, but placeholder word, is expanding. So that's what I'm talking about, where we're beyond what we thought we were doing at. And this is how we go about doing that.
I'm sorry, Lisa was just visited by a little creature in front of the camera. That was so cool. And there it is again. That is so cool. Yeah, a lot of little creatures out there. And that took my attention right away. But you're absolutely right, BZ. I feel that. And that's why I say, I know that's part of what I have been benefiting from is the all. We've talked about that before. I mean, there's been lots of folks that we talked about. I think, again, I wish I had looked it up so I would know the right person to attribute it to, but it was either Prince or Michael Jackson said that if they didn't get up and write the song down when it came in, the other one, whichever one didn't say it, would get it. And because it's in the field when we do that sort of thing. And I'm very clear on that, that is why we're, again, when I first had that conversation with Danny, with Lunacy, because there's so much that there's so many have never even looked into. That's the other thing for everybody that has this, well, I'm so tired of waiting thing. Don't forget, you have had, I don't know how many years of research and looking at this stuff. And yes, you're tired of it. And yes, you're sick of it. And I don't blame you. But the guy that hasn't ever seen it before, I know, I get it. You can say, well, it's their fault. They didn't wake up. Yes, but we all agreed on some level to do this all together. And
that's where next parts of your mission, next parts of your role comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, these are, everything that I'm saying is depending on the narrow, perspective that you go from, is 100% accurate and the whole story, and then it's that's 99 and 9/10, and then right. So there's always that, and sometimes you can't see the very first and because it's such a narrow focus.
Yeah.
But someone had just said, asked a moment ago. So I heard they said, well, okay, my head is hurting and I'm kind of get what you're talking about. I get it, but I don't get it, but I get that I don't get it, sort of thing. And then the next thing they said was, well, put that aside for a moment, can you? And with the storm being within and without, so what's next? How do we do it? How can I, the person who's asking this, kind of navigate through that and more consciously play a role in that? And that's a cool question, because in the very act of pulling it through that question and sending it out, you kind of answered your own question. Right? I mean, because it shows you that you're not wherever you are over there. And oh, by the way, technically this hasn't happened yet because it isn't on YouTube where it goes yet to be on their computer to download it, some device, and watch it. Yet we have lots and lots of times where, and this happens to all sorts of beings who are creating content and stuff, but where we've had someone say, you answered, I just asked that question, or it was me, so this is happening all that. Yes, because we're multidimensional. Because it's not just it's not the straight line and static little points that things happen.
Well, I took it back to my room. Darn it. I keep being shown something, BZ, over and over and over again in my mind's eye. I am being shown the lotus or something similar to the lotus flower.
Yeah.
And each one, oh wow, I'm getting dizzy trying to recall this to you. So that's pretty interesting. Each ring of the flower as it graduates out, because they're not in perfect circles either, but they are sort of, you could call them levels, if you will, of flower petals that go out, right? And I keep being shown that uh, the overall flower is attributable to that monad situation, and
Right.
I have to go back and link. I keep saying I'm going to, and nobody keeps reminding me that I didn't link Magenta Pixie and Todd Medina's conversation regarding the monad, because that triggered me.
Mm-hmm.
Triggered me into a knowing that I never had a word for it. I didn't understand what I saw, but I've shared that with you guys before. But at any rate, I keep being shown this flower, and the fact that if our linear brains, okay, to fit even just a teeny tiny little portion of the all it is into this physical vessel, it's a step down process. This is what I see. And it goes through the monad, and I'm sure probably a couple of other directions out from there to get into this teeny tiny vessel, right? When you think of the all that is. And in doing so, first of all, what a miracle that we actually figured out how to have an experience slowed down to 1 second at a time from the all that is in no time, right? So there's a big thing right there. But in that step down process, and as it comes in from oh wow, it just left. It did. It just totally left.
Don't chase it; it'll come back.
No, it did. Just then it did come back. Because this flower thing apparently is important, because it feels like it will, there's someone that will understand it this way. Each one of those rings represents a realm, with the smallest one being the 3D realm, is what I saw, the linear, the everything, and each realm from outside of that, from the perspective of the linear.
Are you frozen or am I frozen?
Wow, I guess. Oh wow, is it me still? Am I frozen, or can you
From
guys?
the perspective of the linear.
Right, from the perspective of the linear, that looks like past lives on the outward flowers. But from the perspective of the all, it's very clear that there's not maybe an exact direct line into that 3D level of the internal of the flower. But that's that energy that's stepping down as it gets into this 3D linear, time dependent way to experience from one teeny tiny little aspect aperture. This is
Right.
what I have feel is my 3D linear experience. But because it all happens now, because it is all now, that's what I feel, there's something tied to that now, and the way that I've described this flower. The entire monad, of course, is others that are in, what for me, like soul families or soul groups, like the two of you, and a lot of others. You have your own petals on those flowers within me, right? And but it could be, I don't know, I haven't gotten this far in this download process, that's all part of one monad. Actually, I had that feeling earlier today, and I shared that with Lisa. So
Well, the really cool thing about what you're speaking about, and to go back to where you began describing that, is um, how magnificent it is to bring all of you. So we'll take Sheila just for a moment. All of her, which is source and then all that access, but the the singularity of Sheila, right? And in this new being that you are becoming, you had talked about, taking it, stepping it down to this very tight aperture of a second was the
Well, right within, yes.
so that was what I'm seeing is that another way for people to understand that is as you go through that, that's why it's an inside job. That's why you go through the interspace, right? Which is hyperspace. And you're threading the eye of the needle. And as you go through, you come out the other side into the new being that you're becoming. And the words that I'm wanting to give are not right. So it shifts it. It's something along, and it's not accurate, but something along the difference between convex and concave. But there is no, as you come through the eye of the needle, there is no longer the need to step things down, right? Because as you come through, you actually, in your blooming and coming forth, the smallest, and it always did, but now we can see it, the smallest increment, for lack of a better word, holds everything and gives you access to everything. So not only can all of the singularity fit very comfortably in the being in the shirt, but you can comfortably hold all of the Akash, which is every being that ever has been, will be, is this moment, is coming to be, and so on and so forth. And every thought, every feeling, everything in the same moment. So not only now is all of you, right, in the shirt, but all of the access of all things is in the shirt. And you can access those. So their space is not a problem anymore. Because as you jump into the hyperspace and that blooms, as that big bang comes within you, you have, because it's almost like every one of your cells, and I'm just using this placeholder, is now become and transformed and is now its own black hole, which holds inordinate amounts of power and expansiveness and all sorts of stuff.
Infinite potential.
What?
It's infinite potential.
Yes. But it's all right there in the shirt. So there is no, we've transcended or transmuted the whole, in the metamorphosis that we're going through. We don't need to stuff anything in the little, in the little jar, because that's only the amount of water, that's only the amount of the beingness that we can hold in this jar, which is our vessel. This actually stretches beyond, and nothing, not only is nothing left out, but as each part of a moment goes through and happens and experiences from all of the aspects of just Sheila, because this is what we're talking about, right? And remember, we've talked about this in many times before, where you then have the quantum nature, where one decision, I did it, I didn't do it, this, and Lisa's talked about meeting Lisa, who's married to Albert, who has daughter Jasmine, right? And didn't do X, Y, or Z. That's just one of on one decision at one point, right?
Right.
So all of those are fitting in there and all coalescing back, all imploding back, and because it's the in-breath and the out-breath. So the in-breath is everything is an imploding, and as the new breath begins, it's like I'm not describing this, but all of what you have and are in your singularity of the beam of being, right? So all the different aspects on all levels, in body, non-embodiment, just, that's just Sheila, that singularity, okay, are then unfolding. And so I don't want to tip the glass because the water will pour out, but let's see if I can do with this. So it's reversed. So you're thinking, oh, you have this narrow aperture, you can only get so much stuff in there, and it has the circumference that it has, and so the volume, right, the density, the matter. I don't do math well enough to describe it properly, but because I can't translate what's coming in otherwise, but it is held. We're blocked at this level of this vessel. And what I'm saying, as you come through that and you come out the other side, then in a given,
like that.
yes, and in a given moment, you can decide to have a container around something, but it's simply a play container. It is not actually a container.
Yes, and I agree with you on that. And I'm going to show this again because I recall a time where, and I've even said this, I think, in a reading to you, in regards to an energetic widening of your communication highway.
Yes.
And so the whole time you were speaking there, what I saw was that's part of the DNA changes, the energetic changes and I also couldn't help but go with and notice that over the past few days, my entire body is vibrating to the point where my lips feel numb a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then today I realized that, I don't know if it was yesterday or day before yesterday, I pulled a card for Corona Rising Tarot that was Taten the Sylph, and she had fine little hairs on her body that I referred to as antennae, where she could take in all the data. And I have to tell you that over the past 2 days, I realized that my antenna feels like it's getting data. And I was reminded of an article that I saw that 2 hikers on 2 separate peaks were photographed over the past week with their hair standing straight up on. And so I'm saying that all the molecules, the energies that are coming in are carry codes. They're carrying loads and loads of codes, enough to make the antennae, which is what are very fine. I'm not a hairy person. I never really have been. If you could see this in person, you'd say, well, you got no hair on your arms. Well, we all have hair, very fine, microscopic even. It looks like a forest. But I could feel all of the hair standing on edge for a lot of today specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And so noticing things like that and pulling them in, and that to me too is part of this. The storm is here within and without, and it's manifesting in so many different ways.
Yes, and to go back to what I was saying before is that as each beings, so Lisa and Sheila or BC or Keegan or, whoever it is, right? As they're doing integrating, that jumps it for the all, not just the all on the planet or in DC or in the United States, the all, that word with underline. And as you go through each piece, just to take the unwinding and unbinding, to take, put it in a small little microscope, tight aperture of things that are happening in DC and things that are happening with the storm that everybody's using as their pivot point for thinking of that. When some information is released, so before I go on to explain that, because it's not on one level in a narrow focus, it's about an arrest, or it's about a transgression coming to light, or it's about justice, or it's about, the things that are very narrowly, linearly, tangibly focused on that. Yes.
Very, very tight aperture.
Right. So, yes, absolutely, 100%. And on every other level, it, which could be just incrementally little wider aperture, on every other level, that's just a storyline that is being viewed, assimilated, triggering, catalyst, a dot connector, a joiner. And the reason I'm saying that is because as each being looks, so for example, when there was news that Epstein had been arrested, okay, because of, we'll just call it a small portion, because millions of people, but a small portion, of planet size, right, were aware that knew what that would signal given the storm and everything else, and kind of in the linear chart of where it happens. So after the 4th of July, this particular first real Independence Day that we all celebrated, that was big. So if you think about that what you say, remember we've talked about give voice to matters, because it turns it into matter. And the focus and attention and the energetic frequency, the vibe of Epstein got arrested. So there's we've talked about this a bit so far in this conversation. There's a coalescing. There is it's like a super bandwidth jump in the conduit that carried that frequency, had to all of a sudden go to this big of a conduit, right? The tunnel, to hold the jump in that, because that was a quantum jump right then and there. That was one of the quantum jumps we were talking about, where further than it was thought we would get to. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So in that happening, so yes, in the storyline of the storm, and the storyline of Get the Rat Bastards, and the storyline of all that unfolding, transparency, right? That's important. That's integral. The energetic effect of beings looking at that, so I kind of sort them out a little bit. So the ones who knew about Epstein, who knew what was going on, who knew what it would signify, there's an arrest. Okay, that's a pretty big name because of all the tiered names underneath, right, and all the tendrils that it flows out. So that huge wave just crashed on shore. It was the Epstein wave. So all the amplification of that energy. Then you have all the beings who may or may not have heard of Epstein's name before, but they didn't know anything about Epstein. And for a large number of those, when that wave crashed into, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. They could feel the magnitude of the wave, even though they didn't know. Oh, isn't that he's like some Wall Street guy, right? You know what I mean? But so that was a jolt, an exponential opening. So now the conduit for that pipe has to go through another quantum jump and get everything big. Okay. And then, because it's always coming in where there's a trinity to it. And then you've got the beings who, Epstein got arrested. that whole quadrant, right? And the frequency jump of that. So all those three, what I'm saying is, so each part as we go, each being contributes what they're contributing, whether it's they're really pissed off because nothing's happening, or it's taking forever, or why don't these people just, that kind of stuff, or they're doing a lot of stuff, or they're following all their nudges, they're actually and engaged in their missions and all this kind of thing, right? It's all moving all of this forward. And so the little pieces, the Epstein part of the storyline, and the social media summit part of the storyline, yes, those are important, absolutely, but they're not what we think they are, or into the scope and importance that we think they are. But
well, there was a firework, or let's hope that's what that was. That's interesting.
So it just keeps expanding, and if beings feel moved to feel into what we're talking about here within themselves, and even coming near a galaxy of glimpsing and grokking what we're playing with, will catapult you, the you who's doing, saying, oh, okay, let me play with that for a minute, will catapult you and the all. So because someone said a minute ago when I was talking, said, well, I'm still not clear of, exactly what I'm supposed to do in missions. Well, that's one of the things. Just in noticing, just in being focused and aware and noticing in your own journey affects all. You're moving, the ball down the yardage.
Well, this just came in about that, okay? And what you're speaking to there, just that, noticing that you don't know what your journey is. What for me, feeling into that, and now knowing how I feel about following the heart's desire, and how that too is a frequency. And since we're creating in every moment anyway, right, I'd rather be creating something I would like to enjoy doing.
Right.
So by only following that desire, the highest desire that I have, and not settling for anything less, I don't know, that's a part of it, because that's that part of that frequency. So you find what it is that you desire to do, and chances are that'll be your mission. Well, let's put it this way. If that's not how it works, that's how I've chosen to look at it, because I love having these conversations, and it's a passion that I desire to do all the time. And so whether it is or not my mission, I've made it my mission to have these conversations, because they're so helpful to me. So,
well, there's so much involved in all of that. And so, since, just like, we talked about it, you're all of this at once in that moment, because it's all now. That's just, if you were to take something and and shear off a tiny little sliver, you got one tiny little sliver of the mission. And there's, right? And
Right.
you could put them all together and it would be, all that is wide.
No, and you're exactly correct. So for right now, what I've done for myself is I grok that we are the all that is, and yet singularity. And this is why I think sometimes I get these little, well, the moving trucks for one thing, but the headaches too, is because, more is imploding in, and I get that too. So part of the free will choice about how this goes, this embodiment thing, is that shaving off of just what the little linear might be able to handle in these moments, but being open to seeing and grokking more as I go.
Right.
So that I'm not beating myself up because I'm not as expanded as, perhaps my gal pal posse that I hang out with. So I'm not beating myself up about that and not comparing myself to everybody constantly. But being okay with being open to hear things and continue that puzzle piece collecting, because I like doing that too. I'll be honest. That's a real thing that I enjoy. And so I'm sorry, Lisa, you were getting ready to say something there about that.
This is calling out my whole thing of I try to make peace with everything. Because if everything is me, then there isn't anything here that isn't me. And so I have to resist nothing and embrace everything. So for me, it's all about making peace with those things that are harder to accept for myself. And the more that I'm doing that, the more that I find myself to be at peace with. Like it, I don't know. It seems to me I've lost that urgency to be impatient that nothing's happening, because suddenly I feel like everything is exactly as it should be right now, and it feels delightful to experience this moment of now, and even the way that I'm feeling. And sometimes it's melancholy, and that's okay too, because I don't know, there's just so much beauty in all of it for me.
Yeah.
No, that's a very real thing. So that's what I mean. Just allow. I really get that whole allowing thing now, and not and divine timing and all of that. But what you said there about that little shaving, and there's nothing wrong with finally coming to terms with and recognizing something about myself that I know with all of me that I am all that is, and a singularity. And I know, again, with all of me, that this is my experience that I've decided to have in a specific sort of kind of way. And so right now, I being open to getting larger peels, because but I have recently, I just said to BZ, I had a lot of stuff come up where I was like, I just thought I'd be further along than this by now. I'd be doing something else. I'd be out of here. I got this real thing about wanting to travel, right? And all of that sort of thing, instead of just easing into, because I know it's all in hand, right? So in the last few days, I'm feeling better about all of that, because I've had some other sort of epiphanies in regards to that. But all of that is the internal work, the within part that we're speaking of here. And so for me, I'm not surprised that I've had a bit of storminess going on within, that I'm I know I'm this, but I can't deny I feel this. And to sit here and try to deny it or sweep it under the rug or suppress it or repress it or escape it, whatever, that's not a good plan. And so for me, that's what I've been doing. That's as I've been absent from both Corona Rising Tarot Channel and Conscious Conversation Central. Honestly, just the last couple of conversations with you guys, I'm starting to get back into it, because there's a lot of processing that goes along with all of this too. And so,
well, and part of what you're saying too is, I think it's helpful if people can remember, it's a combination of what both of you said. So Lisa was saying she's making peace with things. So sometimes, wow, that's weird. Okay. Or, oh, I feel kind of, sad or melancholy, whatever. Huh, okay. And you're moving along, because again, we talked about, I think we used this metaphor before, you're not necessarily yelling at the TV because some story has come on. You're just going, oh, okay, well, I don't want to do that now. Or, yeah, I'm going to sit down and, I want to, maybe it's a yelling story. And so I'm going to sit there and I'm going to yell back at right? Being conscious as you do that. And you may take little steps as you do that. So when someone's saying, because I heard a bunch say, well, in the last maybe 5 to 10 minutes of this conversation, well, I don't have those powers, or I don't have a mission, or I don't have this, or I don't, again, because I don't, right? Or nothing's changing, and they were saying just within that. And one of the things to play with is, whose voice is saying that? And this is something that came in last night for us to play with. This is another conversation, but it's actually where we actually do a play. We're playing tangibly or something, which we'll get to this, because this is about this. Where you feel into that thought, that feeling. What does it feel like? Where in your body are you feeling it, so you can guide it? And that's going to give you a lot of in the moment. I mean, you can sit down and delve right into it. You can have a 30-second moment where you do this at work, in between, or you get out of the car and you're just about to walk in someplace and you just take 30 seconds to do it. So there's lots of ways that you can do it. But being conscious, it's a combination of different things. And one, it's an interruptus of whatever flow, in the old groove that you're flowing in. So you just interrupt it for a moment. And then you can go, oh, well, hey, I can jump over to this groove here or here, and again, it's by choice, because it is free will choice. And if we're on the free will choice, although unconsciously, of nothing's happening, I don't got no superpowers, I don't got this, right? That's a free will choice. And we can interrupt ourselves for a moment from doing that and look around and say, well, right now, it feels like putting my conscious mind to it, delving into this, I got nothing kind of thing, because I'm going to really mix it up. That's good. I'm not saying, you have to, you're always, everything, or you're certain about everything, or you're clear about everything, or you have your direction set, or not at all. All I'm talking about and playing with is that you're consciously aware of and playing with your free will choice about whatever that is, and whether it's to dive deeper and mix it up, because it's all data that's coming back to you. And when you play with this game that I'm talking about, you can then feel it not only in your physical body, but all of your bodies. It will give you roadmaps. It will give you huge, giant boxes of crayons to draw this amazing piece of artwork. It'll be all the tools in a requisite to build these kinds of vehicles for yourself, and within your superpowers that are going on. But it takes, you're the pilot of your existence and your singularity, and you cannot delegate it away to others and to the they, the masters of the false construct anymore. Not because, well, hey, they'd love you to keep doing that. Not because I said it, but because the energies are not allowing you to do that anymore, because the shearing force, just from a purely vibrational frequency energy thing, the shearing force for you to do that keeps knocking you back, or shearing some of that, flotsam and jetsam off of you. So you're the one who's not allowing you, all of you is not allowing you to do that anymore.
Well, I know, as we know, I have gone through that shearing force thing quite a bit, or I was for a while doing that for myself. So I don't particularly care for that. And because I do know that there's been at least one or two folks that just now said, what is a shearing force? It's a frequential thing. I don't know how else to explain that. It's
Well, a metaphor, if you're in a plane and the wings are going through something and there's shearing force on the wing because of turbulence, because of gradations and the airflow and the air currents that are coming over the plane will go like this. So that would be a visual and kind of word description of what I'm talking about. If you ever watched Star Trek and they're going through, they're in light hyperspeed, and they kind of go through shearing forces because there's stress and differential on the trajectory and vibration that they're carrying, in addition to what they're trying to navigate through.
right. And what just came in for me is that, I set up a plan for myself when I incarnated into this vessel. On a more expanded level, I know that I set up a specific plan of experience and things that I wanted to experience, right? And I know that there's free will here as well. But I think that when we've kind of talked about this before, this is where I'm trying to, for myself, I'm explaining how I understand shearing force. Because I set up a specific way I wanted to experience this particular time, everything's happening now, but this specific portion of my linear experience, I wanted to experience certain things a certain way. And for me personally, I think on some level, the little tiny me that was so programmed and things like that, I was running so very hard. That's how I got so heavy, 490 pounds. That's why I got so sick as I continued to run from myself, because part of what I set up to experience is not anything like the eons and eons of programming that I have purposefully subjected myself to for the experiences. And I incarnated into a bloodline that has had generation upon generation of extra stuff that I also decided I needed to transmute and whatever and what all in regards to that. Mm-hmm. And so that shearing force that I understand you to mean there, BZ, is that because I set up a plan, I have free will choice, but at some point, node points, so to speak, the shearing became such between what my soul chose for me to experience, and the little me who was programmed was saying, no, no, we ain't doing that. Forget you. I'm going to escape over this way. Mm-hmm. Exit stage left, basically, is what I was trying to do. That's what I know now. I know that now, right? But up somewhere, somehow, I got the message, something clicked, and I decided to stick around. And because apparently, again, I don't really fully know what all I'm, supposed to do either. I'm starting to get glimpses because of what we're doing here, honestly. But it's like that shearing is what happens when you get either so uncomfortable that you start asking questions. Why am I so uncomfortable? What the hell is going on up in here? And then I started to become a little more open to hearing, well, what could this be? Like I said, something kind of, I don't know, clicked, whatever. a tumbler fell into place, and that seeking journey began.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the shearing effect I'm speaking of. I got so uncomfortable. It was like I had a choice. It's time to make that choice. You're either going to jump completely off the planet, or you're going to start moving towards what you wanted to experience. So that's shearing.
And you're the driver of it, and you're getting, it is free will choice. So you can do it the hard way or the uber hard way. You know?
And none of them are wrong either.
No, that's right.
No.
That's right.
Nope.
But if you're in a moment where it's painfully obvious that you've chosen the uber hard way all of a sudden, and you're going, hey, free will choice, I'm making a new choice right here. I'm just marking this, but there's many times I said, right, I've got it. I don't understand all I've gotten in this moment, but I have crystal clarity of the uber hard choice. I don't need that anymore. So I'm going to just go a smidge over to a little less uber hard, so I can let a little pain evaporate, so I can get a little more light in, right? And that's what's happening. And so what I was saying, we don't have the choice. We don't have the latitudes anymore in our choiceness. We do, but what I didn't finish saying is that the data that comes in to say, okay, fine, cool. Well, you just ordered up, the supersized, uber hard, this is the storyline right here. And it's got hot sauce and, a gallon of fuzzly, buzzly stuff that you can drink with it and all that kind of stuff. And when all that gets rolling, you really be cooking. So, and we get that right away, instantaneously now. Have you ever had the experience yourself or heard someone say, I broke my leg, I lost my job, my car broke down, I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything, I have to just sit in this bed. And the first bit of squirming and, evolves, and right now it evolves in a nanosecond, but evolves very quickly, and it's, the light is going on, and the moments of noticing can happen, and the shifting through not only in this body, but all the other aspects of you goes on. And you take that same being, either yourself or someone right? This has happened to most everybody. It's just different. Maybe it's not a broken leg, it's something else. But you come to the other side and you go, yeah, that was the best. I'm so glad I broke my leg, I lost my job, my car stopped working, because it gave me all of these things. And I went through this incredible, juggernaut of a whole really cool either theater course or, I'm training for the Zulus in Montana to put out forest fires or whatever it is, right, to do these kinds of things. And this is where we are right now, because everything is speeding up and everything is expanding, and we're still here. We've still raised our hands. Now, part of that, that's what I'm saying, so whose voice is that? Part of that disconnect is the little you in the shirt is going, that wasn't me. No, I didn't say, like that. Or I don't know this, or nothing's happening, or I don't see the, and that's another choice, because you're choosing the I don't want to feel hat. You're choosing I don't want to open my heart hat. You're choosing the I'm little squared to the nines, hat. And so you are in essence making new choices, because you either keep choosing that, or you add a couple more of those hats on, or you can and get data back really instantly from all that, and then move through. So it's it can absolutely, a couple of the times are coming up right now, it can absolutely feel like someone, like they, you know, Lumina or whatever, are doing this to you. Absolutely, I can give you it absolutely can feel like that. The moment that you can allow yourself to take a breath, and in that pause, you actually open up your heart a bit, you open up your aperture lens and what your perception is, perspective of things and how you're focusing. You let a lot, just like a camera, that's why I like the analogy, you let more light in so you can take more information in of the picture that you're looking at. It changes everything in just that one moment. Even if in the next moment you're, you know, right back in this uber hard place, but you have changed. And here's one last thing to help people really understand. There's, I don't really want to put some coloring in my water, but so this glass is you, the vessel, the being that's you. And we'll just to really narrow down this analogy, this metaphor, it's you in the shirt, okay? And within it is all of the parts of your physical vessel. So bones, molecules, the whole nine yards, everything. And all the communities and everything in there, everything. So you can see, I don't know if you can see there's little kind of bubbles.
Right.
Of water in there. So think of bazillions of those are actually in there. We're just not looking at it, you know, in a clear enough way. Each one of those is changing into a structure and capabilities and refinement of how it connects to all the other bazillions that are in there every moment, because all of your DNA is coming online. So everything is changing. So in that one moment, that's what I want to highlight, in that one moment of pause that we talked about, you know, where you're in this, oh, okay, I guess I am choosing this. I think that's bullshit, but I guess I am. I'm gonna play with that for a minute because I'm choosing this. Okay, so for a minute, and in that pause, all these changes are going on anyways within each being. In the pause, you change everything because you hyper accelerate all the changes that are going on within you in that one tiny nanosecond that you paused. And because what? Because you're a transmitter. And you've now transmitted out these new codes, these new permutations, these new expansion structures that have changed within you to all. And then the all has expanded and changed, right? I mean, it's very simplistic to say you've changed everything, but you have. And so that's why just a moment of playing with something like that really does make a difference to yourself, to all of your bodies, to your friends, neighbors, everybody on the planet, and everything and all, because we're all connected. That's where the singularity and the all connected comes in together.
Yes, when you spoke of the pause, what I got for me on that, I equate that for myself to the being open to considering something. Whatever the topic is at hand, rather than immediately go with whatever the knee-jerk reaction is to whatever is being said. And it doesn't even matter. Take your pick. Doesn't, you know, the sky is green today. Just the moment of pausing and being open to considering, well, honestly, I associate the word green with something specific. And so, and just that moment of taking to say, well, maybe it's not, maybe it is green. Maybe I was misinformed. Just even thinking along those terms does change everything. Being open to considering something. And it's not something you have to take within and say, okay, I'm buying that for $1 because, because you said so, Sheila, and I'm just going to trust you.
Right.
You don't have to
Well,
do
that's
that.
how everybody got into the.
That's how we got here in the first place. That's right. So by taking the moment, and that's exactly it too. We were told it was green. Who made that choice? That's all I'm saying, right? Considering everything is changing. It changes everything.
Right.
So for me, that was the first thing of any of this, was being open to considering a puzzle piece as one is presented with it is commitment to nothing, and yet changes everything.
Yes.
That's my feel.
Absolutely. And so what I want to highlight here right this moment is, so the storm is here within and without. So that was the without part, because you said, well, someone said it was green or blue or whatever. And what does that mean? Right. Because that's out there. So that's without.
Right.
And so that can also be within, because you're holding it that way. But what I want to make sure that people highlight as well, so that the propensity is broadened a bit to not just look out there. So when you have a thing, well, I don't have powers or something, okay, right then, that's a story you've been telling yourselves for a long time. You may have gotten the story from somebody else, right? But it's a story, and just look at that for a moment. As you just said, well, okay, whose idea was that? Or who said that? Or how is that so? What, you know what I mean? So there are things that you do innately. And that's why sometimes, to me, it's a little bit, there's a great cosmic humor on the superpowers, right? Because there's a lot of things that we do that are innate to each one of us that are superpowers, because there's a lot of other people that can't do it at all. In fact, you say, what? It's no big deal. Yeah, because it's innate to you, because, yeah, it's your individualized superpower. So when you change those things, when you're looking at something, when some thorn in your side comes up or some nagging thing, because those are the ones that you'll pay more attention to. Unfortunately, if you're in a groove, you're not feeling the good stuff. So, okay, so go with the bad stuff. Because, clearly if you could be attracting that, so you got a lot to choose from. And just look at that and watch it, and then say, okay, replay that for a moment with a slightly different script or slightly different hue or a slightly different angle, where, what that's doing is it's letting you sync up with yourself. So all of your bodies are being allowed to sync up. If you think of it more in a column of light and frequency, allowing you to sync up that way, because you are the small, individualized, linear being, that has to breathe air, and there's time, and all these, lots of gravity and all these kinds of things. And then you also have in that, it's actually toroidal, but think of it in that column, that pillar of light, right? That's right. All the other aspects of you up there. And so try that one on, or try this level. And when you do that, it's in that pause, it's the breathing space. And so that's where you can, again, come into coherence of the concept of, the thought of, the playing with, that the storm is here, and you bet, and it's way bigger than the perceived big storm that, as a lot of the memes and all that kind of, way bigger. And when you bring it into coherence, the storm within and without, it's like this hand gesture that I was asked to do. It's putting the tumblers in place so that it locks in, and they're holding of not only you in your individualized state, your singularity, but the holding of the various different collectives come into coherence and whole. So on one level, you could say the holding of the nation of the true United States, right, comes into whole. The planet comes into coherence, not only with what really is the planet, and that we are actually physically on all bodies of our bodies levels part of the planet, right? And so you can just keep going out and out. And so as we can change those tumblers. So even just playing that just for a minute, even just sitting there going like doing something like this where your brain isn't thinking that, but you're just doing this motion and you're slowing it down, and then you realize that your fingers are sliding. It's muscle memory, kinesthetic muscle memory of the multidimensional sort. Because just in doing that, it's aligning parts of your own personal Akash and all that is all else to come in so they can float into your awareness. So then you may hear a song play, or someone may say something, or you may notice something, or you may feel something, or Sheila was talking about antenna stuff. So you may think that there's maybe like a bug landed on you. Instead of immediately going to swat it off, just look and feel. And what are your senses? Because you could think of it as all of a sudden you can be this incredible high-powered microscope that can see all of these things that were always there that you could never see before. And that in itself is a superpower. But it's almost like we keep sticking something in, that's jamming up this mechanism. And that's a free will choice of our own as well.
Well, yeah, no, I see that clearly too. So, but no judgment. I mean, honestly, that's what I think for me, what Lisa was speaking to in regards to becoming at peace with,
right.
Because for me, I didn't sign up for this to be a slam and ride. I don't do the slam and type carnival rides. And I think that's what, I know that a lot of folks that have been doing this for a while are weary. I get that. But I have a feeling that, some of this would be a slam. And I'm not ready for that. So, so I'm happy with the because I really do feel like it's a DIY type of thing. And I think that we're
and in
all
realizing your DIY type of thing, that in itself changes your perception, which
right.
in itself changes your perspective of the perceived slamness or not,
Right.
happeningness or not, slow or fastness or not, right?
Right.
Because it's all at the genesis of you.
Right.
So just those little subtle changes, changes it. It could be to someone else, or if you, and you can, it's not an if, but as you allow yourself to have, bilocational consciousness, then multi-locational, then be able to get more and more and more of it, you can actually see in one perception where you're slamming or getting slammed, or however you want to, right? And then you shift that a little and not so much, or maybe just, going zoo, zoo, zoo kind of thing, and you can see the benefits to all of that. You can see, depending from the perception that you're holding, you can see, I'm good. I don't need that one, kind of a thing. So I guess maybe what this conversation is really another way to play with inviting people to see all that's unfolding, all the theater, which is there and unfolding, and even for a nanosecond, take a little longer look, take a little longer investigation from your inside part. What's kind of mirroring up within you? And oh, you see, okay, there's the metaphor, transpiring outside. And where are you on the perception thing, and can you start to look at here and there, or here and here, right next to each other, so they don't have to be so divergent.
Right.
And you'll realize it's almost like if you wear glasses, it's like someone you cleaned your glasses, they didn't have a schmutz on them, right? Or you don't need them anymore, or it goes from from a cloudy gray day to a bright day, and all of a sudden it's like just air seems fresher and all that kind of stuff, right? It's on the one hand really not much has perceptually changed, but your reading of it has dramatically changed. And that's going to be a really helpful tool to help people navigate and consciously do, because once you start to consciously engage with your ride, your creation, your unfolding, your experiences, your adventures, right? Even the ones that you step in that you created that are the slamming ones, it really is fantastic, because you don't have that sense, at least a lot of the time, maybe not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time, of being so small anymore, of just being, like this little ball in a cup that's being, yanked and jerked and stomped and squashed and, all over the place. And you can go, okay, I think I put a little bit too much, volume in that last deep knee bend and buoying off my super pair of sneakers. This is gonna hurt, but okay, tuck and roll, kind of a thing. And that's how it is, because that's how we really are.
Well, you make a really good point there, and Lisa, and this we've spoken individually, she and I, about not in a video. This is one of those conversations that I wish had been recorded. But I know it's in the ethers anyway. But and what you spoke to for me there is that the more noticing an interaction, conscious interaction one has with all of what presents.
Mm-hmm.
I freely admit this, I've not done that. I have not consciously interacted on a regular basis consistently, but I know for a fact that Lisa and you both do. And it shows in the in your consciousness levels for me, from my perspective, okay? And I am aware that that's the one thing that is I'm apparently not ready to engage in it on a regular basis. It's just, like I said, it's something I've noticed now. And I mean, it's really right here in front of me, that this is not something that I have made a consistent thing about the interaction. I have done it. I know that I create things around me. I'm aware of that. But honestly, I am still walking around going, okay, and just creating haphazardly, not consciously. I'm aware of that. I don't know why I'm doing that, to be honest with you, because I do know that I'm doing that. And I know from my interactions with the two of you and my conversations with the two of you, that this is the one thing that, so far anyway, in my puzzle piece collecting, that I say all the time, focus and attention is everything. And yet I haven't focused and attended to, these things. So there's a reason for it. What it is exactly,
Well, it could be, building that channel, building those muscles, reminding yourself to do it. Not, sometimes this just popped in. Sometimes we get excited about or really wanting to, go to the next step of the new adventure, this and here, and we skip a whole bunch of steps prior to. No, I just want to get there. Well, you want to get there, so what do you want to do there? Oh, well, I want to, walk on the beach forever. And well, if you haven't walked on the beach in a long time, or at all, or ever, it's going to take certain physical muscles that you have in this space that you're going to need, because otherwise you're going to get a few feet and you're going to go, okay, I don't like this beach walking stuff so much because sand's hot and my calves are right. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I do. Exactly. So that's, and thank you for that, because that is that conversation right there has come up just recently between Lisa and I, because I'm like, you know what? I'm not in a, right as I sit right here, my physical, I've been ill a long time. There's a lot of atrophied muscles. And so even in my physical vessel, see, this is with that without and within thing, right? There's a lot to consider in all of this. And so, yeah, oh boy, I got really dizzy. Okay.
So if you pick a thing, I mean, there's something came up the other day. I don't want to go too far in this because it's really kind of a different conversation, but whatever it is that someone's saying, I want this to happen, I just want to do that now. Then think, okay, so it's happened now, right? It's you have in the new place, or you want to go walk on the beach, so now you're at the beach, or just whatever that is. And how you're there. So wherever the there is, whatever that is, you got it. It's right there. You're in it. Okay. And how did you envision yourself, or what do you choose to do now? You want to stand on your head? You want to walk down the street? Whatever it is. And whatever you're doing, you go and you do it wherever you are now. Because you say, well, but I'm not there. I'm here. And so you build those muscles on all of the body levels, all the different bodies, not just the physical, but all of them.
Right. And that's that being, okay. So thank you for that, because you know what, again, that's not something that I even consider doing, right? Is doing it in, wow. Okay. So I'm sorry. I just, that there's something came in and it went right out, but it's not something that I even considered being able to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's not something that I do consistently either. Okay, there's something trying to come in, but it's I'm
marry that just for you. Another thing to play with, you marry that. Well, you always jump right to the fantastical. Well, I never considered doing that, but I jump right to the fantastical. So in that disconnect part there, play a little, because there's a disconnect.
There is a disconnect. You're right. There is a.
I think the plug's getting plugged in. Back into the disconnect.
Which is nice.
Wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming in at this moment.
So, and again, I think this would be delicious, another conversation, and I just want to throw this one in there because I'm being nudged several times. Okay, now I'm just got shoved to put this in there. You had asked me, and in just a personal conversation that we were having, because you made alluded to, I thought I'd be a little further down the road or whatever, or someplace else, and part of that conversation was more clear on, your missions, your roles, and things you were supposed to do, and it was also related to superpowers, that kind of stuff. And I asked if do you follow all of your nudges when you get them, no matter what they are, and you're aligned with them, and do you then once a day minimum, multiple times a day, ask, okay, what you got for me? How can I be of service? What would you like me to do? So that you're actively engaging.
Right now, I want to be clear because I just heard somebody say, "Ask who? Ask me." To be clear,
right?
That what we were speaking of is BZ was like, "Ask yourself."
Ask my soul is what I do.
Right. Okay. So I'm asking. Well, anytime I say me, that's who I'm talking about. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so and there were crickets.
Yes. Yes, there were.
Not to put too fine a point on it, but
Yeah,
there were crickets.
Not from my soul, mind you. But
no, I know that. The one in the chair was playing the crickets. So there's another one of those things. Well, I want my superpowers. Well, great. Good on you. What you been doing to turn them on?
Right.
What have you been doing to notice that they're right there? What have you been doing to, get the muscles back in shape? What have you been doing to resin your magic wand bow, to do it?
oh my God, talk about metaphor, okay? From all the way from the outside to all the way to the inside. Holy crap. Because Lisa and I have been talking about this whole thing about, because my physical body, oh my God, I've been living this damn metaphor, this within and without, right? In a whole bunch of other kind of ways too. You two ain't.
She just put the plugs together. he just plugged the thing in the wall.
I see metaphor everywhere, but this one specifically, I didn't see coming until right this second. Because we've been talking about getting in shape for, Lisa really wants to show me the Minnesota State Fair. And, I said, I've got a lot of atrophy, and she's like, well, it's a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Right. So there's this storm on the outside of my body, and I alluded to the whole feeling of my antennae buzzing. So there's this whole, okay, so that's about as outside. Well, Epstein and all of that is about as outside as you can get. But to bring it, closer into me now, there's this body piece. And bodies, yes, you're absolutely right. But I was talking about physical body with the whole walking around the Minnesota State Fair.
Yes, I was talking about the mental body as well, because your brain better be on board with the whole walking around thing. It doesn't matter if your physical body is going, yeah, let's do this, right?
Right, and then there's that level or that further in ring of my flower petalness that I was speaking of earlier, where I was speaking to you. Of course, none of this it's all happening now. But in regards to that, and what are you doing? What are you doing for your soul lately?
Right,
is pretty much right. What have you done for me lately? Okay, well, and anybody ask me one more time why I see metaphor everywhere?
Well, it's metaphor everywhere. It's also actual literal cliff notes. What do you call it? A tip sheet.
Okay, so really for me this amounts to not okay. So I have alluded before that I was able to quit smoking by replacing one habit with another. Mm-hmm. I went from, the hand to mouth with the smoking, the butts, to hand to mouth with drinking water, right? So I need to figure out and I'm just going to throw this out there since we're doing this on camera, a method for retraining myself to do these, remember to ask myself these questions, to engage in that way. And I'm open to considering all tips and tricks anyone wants to submit to consciousconversationcentral@gmail.com, or in the comments if you want everybody to know about it. I would love to hear from anyone who's got any ideas on that. that is whether or not I'll listen to them and maybe actually try them. Because there's been lots of things the two of you have said to me that, again, crickets. So apparently
Sheila's got crickets that can do virtuoso arpeggios of, cricketness.
So they're highly entertaining.
Yeah. Wow. I live to serve.
But this is, for me, I'd like to finish this part up here, is that it really is an epiphany that many people don't get. They may see it easily for you, but for themselves, they don't see the epiphany for themselves because there are all these things that's not happening, or they want, or whatever it is, but you don't understand, or, whatever, right? And if what it was that it was right here, right this moment, there are so many things that you're not quite in it. You may be very close to in tune, in alignment, right? But just a hair out of focus. The very act of going, oh, well, you better be ready for the moving truck or the this or the that, whatever, to be, holy shit, the truck's outside. Oh my God, because just that change is what I'm talking about. Just that little change changes everything. And wait for it, it changes all. So you've transmitted it out. So if you're thinking, well, it's not, Epstein is not happening fast enough, and this, and that, and the other thing, and, when is the new monetary system? When is this? When is that? And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute, slow down, right? So again, it's not about careful what you wish for. It's be in alignment with what you're giving voice to, that you profess to want and really show up, and then to get into alignment with it, because that's in your recipe that you're not quite in sync. So there's
Right.
that disconnect.
Right. So, well, just that, like you said, the very active, sometimes you can see it, and sometimes you can even know it. Now, oh, Jesus, oh, shit. Just this very second, I got what intellectual, what is that?
Exercise.
Thank you. I just got what that really is.
Yeah.
I can see it. I can know it. But knowing it is a whole other.
That's where the fierceness that I talk about comes in.
That is also multidimensionality at it. Oh my God, I'm so dizzy.
That's it. Okay, so all the usual things in all the usual places. Go play, have fun. We love you. We'll come back with more cool stuff.
Much love.
Okay.